Hey, what's going on, folks? It's Mike here, and welcome back to my Programming Language First Impression series, the series in which we take a look at a programming language for the first time or revisit a language after some duration of time, which is the case for today's episode. And basically, we take a look at that programming language and just sort of poke around, get a feel for the language, and see what it's like to learn that programming language for the first time in about an hour. Now, as alluded to, today we're going to be revisiting a programming language that I took a look at probably in the early 2000s, and it's really exciting to see that it's still here today. And that language that we're going to be looking at is PureBasic. So what is a PureBasic programming language? Well, again, as in the name, as you can see, it's a basic programming language. Now, again, the last time I used this was probably 2003, 2004. I was probably just playing around with a demo as I was learning how to program around that time. And what struck me was it just seemed to be a very productive programming language. So I was always sort of interested in it, and now seeing that it's still here in the year of 2025, it's just a really interesting case study to see, like, what is the space for these basic programming languages. You know, if you look at some of the different software development environments today, software is really complex. So I kind of wonder, are we ever going to circle around and go back to these sort of rapid application development environments, things like Delphi, Visual Basic, that were, gaining a lot of popularity in the 90s. And of course, those tools still exist, just like this one, but wondering, will we see more developers pick up languages like these? I think it's going to be kind of a really interesting software ecosystem here. But at the very least, basic programming languages are almost always, I could claim, very welcoming if you're just starting out your programming journey. So with that said, I still think it's worthwhile to take a look at PureBasic. I know a lot of folks have used this for hobby stuff and commercially. And again, let's just see where the state of the tool is today. So I've highlighted a few links here, and I found the PureBasic website and also purearea.net, which looks like a hobbyist site here with a bunch of PureBasic resources. And again, these are just ones that, since 2003, all the way up to, it's getting regular updates today, which is really, really cool. So obviously there's a community around this sort of programming language here, but let's go ahead and just take a look at it here. There is a Wikipedia page. I found there's probably some other resources here, but we'll visit the page here and then we'll actually try to download it or a demo here. But this is sort of what it looks like here. This is a capture of the visual designer, I should say, which sort of had this idea, if we sort of zoom into it here, that you could do rapid application development. Now, I think this is something that is a separate tool from the sort of integrated development environment, or maybe this was added on later. I sort of remember this being developed alongside. Maybe somebody can correct me in the comments here. But again, it gave you sort of the like Visual Basic experience here. We could just drag and drop widgets in here and see the generated code. And from my memory, PureBasic was just sort of a tool that worked, which was really cool, because at the time in the early 2000s, finding a programming language like this, or this sort of standalone environment where you could build projects for Windows, Linux, and Mac, was kind of ahead of its time in some ways. Now, of course, you could do this with languages like C and so on, but you just had Visual Basic, which was just Windows only for that environment. You had Pascal and Delphi and stuff, which could target other platforms. And then you had tools like this. So it was kind of interesting to see this sort of, tool, and just how nice it was for how small of a team they had. I believe there was just one programmer, one main programmer at the least, and then maybe there was a team around them as well. But so anyways, PureBasic is just kind of an interesting, a fascinating story here, and maybe a success story here. So anyways, it's a commercial software, although I believe there was a demo of it that we're going to try to run today. It has an environment all integrated together, and it's a basic language by, don't know if this is Fantasia software for Windows, Linux, Mac, and an Amiga version. Okay. So anyways, so since at least 2000, this has been around here. I think it says 1998 is when it first appeared, but 2000 for the commercial version. So, we're coming on somewhere between, let's call it around 25 years at this point. Officially, I guess December of 2025 will be that, release. It's kind of neat to see it had this lifetime license model here. Now that's really cool. That's just really a cool tribute to the founders here. And again, the culture of software itself is kind of an interesting state here about what is open source? How do we distribute software? Do you distribute software and then have patches that are paid for and stuff? So that's kind of a testament that the first person who ever bought this over 20, 6 years ago at this point, let's say, is still getting free lifetime updates. So, well done on the owners there. That's something that could be respectful, or that I could respect. But you also want these sort of small shops to succeed too. So, thinking about ways to support them is great as well. But you don't see those models as much. Today we're in very much a subscription environment, which is kind of interesting for software. And again, part of that's just the economics of what is needed. So I won't argue for or against it, but this is kind of interesting. I'm kind of fascinated with that sort of model. So anyways, PureBasic itself compiles directly to various architectures here. And I remember, I could build DLLs and these types of things here, which is really cool. Because why I was looking at PureBasic at the time in the early 2000s was I wanted to build DLLs and then use them in another basic software called DarkBasic. So anyways, that was kind of the goal here. So this is one of the tools I could do it because I didn't know C at the time, but I knew I wanted to make libraries and kind of share code around. So anyways, this was where my exploration was. But also kind of cool that as a basic language, it supported inline assembly. So it didn't feel very limiting in any way, meaning like you could get really good performance and build really cool stuff here. And then the other thing that I'll mention about it, which is also highlighted here in the wiki, is that the PureBasic also had, I think it was either one of the libraries supported or there's a well-known extension or something, but for the Ogre 3D graphics engine, which was really, really cool. At that time, and it's still an engine that is being used today, and is a great engine that's still being updated. And then I guess there was also Erlect engine as well, which has been around for quite some time. I mean, maybe we need a series on game engines or something, because these are two that I've followed the history for a long time. But again, it's cool to see them here. So anyways, as far as the programming language goes, right, it's a basic programming language, but it produces native code, which again was one of the major advantages that just seemed like a win. And, you wonder why developers in some ways don't gravitate more towards these tools, especially if you're doing, say, a smaller or medium-sized project. You're getting native code, but you can develop in a basic language, which should be more productive or potentially more debuggable. So it is just kind of an interesting, again, the popularity of languages, something that we talk about a little bit on this series, to see how these things develop. So anyways, so it looks like a lot of the work's been done to build out the compilers. You can build graphical user applications, console applications, libraries, DLL files, and so on. Well, here's the simplest program. It's just literally a single line here that'll print out a box here. So you gotta like this stuff here. It really, really makes life easy. Here's the message box, which seems to be embedding some Windows API calls, which is pretty neat. So pretty cool here. So, all right, let's just get another screenshot of it here. This is what we're going to download. Something like this. Again, looks pretty similar, but it's kind of got all the stuff you need, right? You got your code here. You can click on your procedures to jump around, maybe some project files. I mean, sometimes that's all you really need, right? Keep things simple and just focus on building the actual software. So in many ways, I'm, again, as mentioned, fascinated with these sort of programming languages here. Again, it's a procedural programming language. So let's see what it means. It's a second generation basic language. Okay, so you got structured conditionals, loops, procedure-oriented programming supported. Okay, so assuming that just means procedures, right, as is being shown here. The user is not required to use procedures, so the programmer may opt for a coding style, including goto, gosub. Okay, so you could have really fundamental, like the old basics with like gotos and gosub, go to a subroutine. But okay, so you have your procedures with your arguments here. It looks like they're passing an array of one value or something here, or maybe that's an array of one dimension. We got to look here. Now this is kind of interesting. I see protected here. Interesting, within a procedure here. So I guess that can't leak. I wonder if that's some sort of like escape analysis type of thing here, saying about the scope here. In the same way that in Python, right, you can like declare a value global or tell if you're referencing the global one. I wonder if that's what protected is, and it looks like it's inferring the type here. Maybe the types are dynamic. So we got to find this out by just playing around and looking at the tool here. It looks like we have some nice examples. This was the other thing. I mean, this still looks familiar to me 20 years later. But the other thing that was really cool about PureBasic was just programmatically, you could just create a graphical user interface really, really easily. So again, it was a nice abstraction over someone who is new to programming, trying to learn the Windows 32 API. As you can imagine, that's not a very fun thing to learn when you're starting your program here. So let's see. So Fred, the main developer, has stated PureBasic will never be object-oriented. However, numerous users have created their own object-oriented support systems. Interesting. Okay, and we got our fundamental data types here. Oh, interesting. There's a distinguishment here between ASCII characters and I guess just regular characters, or maybe the same type here. And then, of course, so then we have Unicode here. Okay, so that's an interesting distinguishment here, where you have this as a type here. And then, of course, you just have byte, too. I was going to say we probably just want byte. Although it's interesting that byte is signed here, which in some languages, I guess, might be unsigned. Actually, let me bring this up, right? I'm thinking of C++ here, right? You have byte is basically as an unsigned char here. So maybe you would have like unsigned byte or whatever. I mean, there's a distinguishment between a character, which again, you're usually going to represent 0 to 255, but their bytes here are signed. Okay, so interesting decision. And then in languages like D, you have byte and ubyte for distinguishing signed and unsigned. So it doesn't really matter as long as there's an easy way to tell. But I think that's interesting. This might be the first language that we've looked at that had like an ASCII type, though. That's kind of interesting here. Then interesting, let's see, we've got quad. Okay, so, I mean, some of these are just kind of matching like the assembly names for the types here. So that's kind of interesting. And I wonder if that makes more sense, because we highlighted earlier that there's inline assembly available in this language. So, maybe there's a purpose, and that's why these types are here. So again, that'll be kind of interesting to understand the historical standpoint of that. Let's see here. Okay, so in addition to the basic types, we can create our own types. We've got structures. Okay, so again, a little bit, C programmers are going to be, most programmers are going to be familiar with being able to define your own data types in some ways. We've got fields, but interesting. So we do have optional construction here. Let's see here. Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's, I guess, I guess within unions here, you could create a constructor or something. Interesting here. Structured union. Optional construction, structured union, and structured union. Allows you to combine multiple fields into one area. So it's just like a regular union, I guess, here. But I wonder if in their structures you can actually add member functions, because then you get like a sort of object-oriented type of thing here without having to pass around pointers and stuff. Now, I didn't see a pointer type here, I think, just quickly scanning this, which is kind of interesting. But let's see, what else here? Is array a fundamental type here? I don't see it, but we did see array pop up in the support code up here, so we'll have to decipher what that is later as far as a basic type here, okay? Let's see. Okay, so PureBasic has its own form designer. Okay, so that's what we kind of saw here. Visual designer. Okay, so they added the new one in 2013. I guess they had a non-integrated one. Okay, so maybe that's what I'm recalling, because I thought they had always had something similar to this. As far as the community goes, I mean, this is a pretty good, reasonable sized community here for somebody, a small team running a project here. And again, this has been around since 2002, so to have 372,000 posts is pretty wild. I mean, again, just bravo. I mean, I always like to support the sort of small communities and like seeing these sort of projects, right? This is how we get different stuff, different paradigms and stuff. It has to sort of start small here. Anyways, it looks like there's a few different books here for PureBasic, which is kind of neat here. So, if you're going to dive in here, there's a freely available book here on 2D programming. So again, I mean, maybe, again, part of this series is, again, looking at different languages for how they do things, but maybe get some inspiration. Maybe this is a great language for somebody younger getting into programming to check out here. So anyways, let's go to the website here. Let's check it out here. I do want to actually let's get the download started here. Let's see. So there is a free version here. So let me see if I can just download PureBasic here for 24.4. Let's just go ahead and download that. Again, that's the system that I'm running here, so I could go ahead and see that there. All right, let's give that a moment to download. And then as we're searching around here, and again, this is available on Windows, Linux, and Mac here. It looks like it's using the Mac tools. Oh, a couple other platforms here, and Raspberry Pi OS, and and Amiga. Okay, so quite a few platforms that they're supporting here. I'd be curious how large the compiler is. Again, a project like this that's lived for so long. Again, I'm just kind of fascinated here. And again, you get all the distributions. So anyways, let's go to the introduction. Let's see how they introduce us to the language here as a modern basic programming language. Again, yeah, portability being a major feature here. And again, this sort of write once and then being able to deploy to all these different platforms is great. With an optimized compiler here. So again, quite a bit of effort. Okay, and putting a lot of effort into building fast, reliable, and quality software with their friendly basic compiler. Let's open up the documentation here. Okay, we'll have our reference. Cool. We'll try out some of the samples. Despite its beginner-friendly syntax, the possibilities are endless with PureBasic's advanced features. Okay, so there are pointers, structures, procedures. You could use DLLs and more. Experienced coders will have no problem gaining access to any of the legal OS structures or API objects, and PureBasic even allows inline assembly. Cool. Yeah, I'm assuming, again, if you could just load in a library or something, maybe this talks to the C ABI. So we'll have to check that out here. So again, it's a modern language. Build any type of application or game. Again, I think there was some gaming focus. Again, there was sort of a interesting time in the 90s and early 2000s with like PureBasic, BlitzBasic, DarkBasic, and other variants that folks were developing that was just really, really exciting. So anyways, they're kind of commenting on that. The portability we've touched on, and yeah, let's see some of the features here. So tons of commands here. So again, everything's kind of like built in. Of course, you could bring in more libraries, but 1,600 plus commands here, all the different platforms. Very fast. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, maybe we can see what the build times are like. But we got our built-in containers like array, list, and map. Perfect. You got the basic ones that you want here. And it's kind of funny, some of the basic programming languages that I first started with didn't have, they had arrays, and that was basically it. And then maybe some way to create a pointer. But I wonder if had I stuck with PureBasic earlier, if I would have learned more by learning about data structures like map and list. So in some ways, I think this is kind of important. And again, I'm kind of orienting this lesson or almost looking at it more like if I was learning programming today or giving this to somebody who's younger, for some definition of young, or just starting, maybe this isn't a bad place to expose them. Because again, when you learn an array, a list, or a map in any language, it doesn't really matter. But it's got some of the other stuff too that'll, strong types and syntax and stuff. So that's kind of neat here. And okay, namespace support. Okay, and we've got access to a bunch of features for games and the Ogre library is mentioned. So yeah, let's give this a try. As far as getting open my PureBasic demo here, I'll just start getting this set up here. Again, I've done no prep as I do with this series, so you're seeing with me how to set this up here. Okay, I got to see the install file or in the README. Let's see here. So let's go ahead and find the install file. I wonder if this is something that I have to double click or let's see here. I'll bring it back in. Here, let me close my other stuff. Okay, unpack PureBasic. Okay, let's see here. In this folder, okay, rename folder with version. Okay, let's see here. Okay, we got to make sure we have some compilers, some developer libraries. I guess we might need to install some stuff here. Might need WebKit. Okay, some developer libraries for games. I think I've got the Mesa stuff. Okay, so I've made this pretty simple here. Yeah, and I have GTK3. I should have that already. Okay, so there we have it here. OpenGet, save the following. Okay, let's just see if we can get this. Let's just see if I just do launch what's going to happen here. And then we'll go through. I want to see there are the compilers and stuff here, but Let's just go ahead and open up a terminal and open up the PureBasic demo. Let's just do launch here. Let's see what happens. Okay, so this is the free version. Please have a look at the examples folder for test programs. Free version limitation up to 800 lines. Okay, no problem. That seems reasonable enough. And then let's see, my other window. Okay, simple enough. Let's see if we can run a program here. All right, so anyways, let's go ahead and try this out. Let's open up some examples. I mean, we got to dive right into 3D, right? Because I like doing 3D stuff here. Now, these are some bigger files here. Let's just pick like a small one here. Because I don't know if these are going to be 800 lines or not. Facial animation, really? Okay, are we going to do this in less than 800 lines? Okay, try to pick a small one here. Again, with no idea of what I'm doing here, let's just do run. Let's see here. I got to link in the glue library here. Okay, because it's doing OpenGL stuff here. Okay, maybe let me open up something else here. Pinball, let's see if these are all using glue here. Okay, I got to download that. Let's go ahead and open up. I'm going to keep trying some of these examples until we get one that works. Oh no, all the graphics ones are going to need that. Well, let's see here. Let's see if I just try. Are these all like OpenGL ones? Okay. Let's link in, let's see, glue library, the GL utility toolkit, and let's not fault anybody. Let's go back to our instructions here. For the install here, let's see, let's do search GLU. Is that in this list here? I think I could just sudo apt-get install that. Let me see here if that'll do the trick. Let's go back here. Let's go ahead. Let's see here. App cache search. Glue app. What is it here? App search, maybe. All right. Let's see here. I wonder if I just install like free glut or something here. Apt install free glut. Let's search for it here. App search. Okay, let's install this one here. Apt install freeglut3-dev. Type in my password here. Let's see. I can take on that library here. I think that's bringing in maybe the libglue from Mesa here. That might be what we need here. Let's go ahead and try that out then. Let's see here. Okay. Warning, linker error here. The behavior is deprecated. Okay, so I got to do something here to fix this here. Here, let me close out some of these in case that's causing a problem. This new one here. Nope. No, I don't want to save here. Cancel. Nope. Okay. Let's go ahead and try to run this here. Okay, let's see what the error message is. And this is referring to GTK grab get current context. Oh, maybe I don't have the GTK library. Okay. All right, so I should have read the instructions as always. Let's see here. GTK. Let's see which ones I need here. libwebkit. Okay, so at the least I need this. I might need to install GTK2, which is fine. We can do that here. Again, on Linux, you always got to do your own, story here, or build your own system. Rather is the way to say things here. Let's get this installed here. But I imagine on Windows and stuff, you could just distribute the demo, and then this will just get running. Again, this is part of the first impression series. You got to see how to get up and started here. Maybe I should have just installed everything ahead of time, but again, I'm going to see what the minimum dependencies are here. I suspect I'm going to need GTK2, but that'll probably be the next thing to install. So let's go ahead and see if we get that unpacked. And again, let's try another one here. Let's go ahead and bring myself back in. Let's try one of those 3D ones now that I think we have everything set up here. And then we'll get into actually looking at some of the code here. Let's try the tank one here. Let's see. Now it might take over my window here. Let's see what happens. Yep, we got this launcher here. I'm going to launch it in here, and it's going to bring it up in another window, I guess. Oh, let's see. Let me just bring this up in another window and run it just so I can see this guy going here. Let's go ahead and launch. Yeah, we got to do some justice here. Oh, now I can move back and forth and fire. Oh, pretty nice here. Hey, this is quite inspirational here. Well, I can drive through here, but I guess they're just doing the ray casting here. Let's see, how do I aim my turret here? Okay, so quite nice. You know, overall, this has like, yeah, this is plenty for building a little like game or a game engine or something. So that's pretty cool here. Okay, I can mess around with that all day. So let's go back to our other screen. And let's just take a look at some of this code here. I think that might be one of the best ways to kind of understand what's going on here. Make this a little bit, oh, we can zoom in nicely here. Let's see what else we got. We got our form designer, the actual project. Okay, it looks like there are a bunch of pieces to it. Okay, so yeah, there's definitely more than one file for this here. We got our data, the models, and so on. Okay, so I mean, this is a pretty you know, involved project here, but we gotta navigate our way around here. Let's see here. I like this code navigation. This is very, very nice here that I could just jump to different functions here. That's handy. So quick navigation here. Oh, interesting. I see a macro here. That's cool. Okay, let's see. Now that we got our install here, let's go ahead and close this. We know that some of the demos can run here. I got all of our dependencies for the graphics demos. Okay, so, you know, the editor is pretty intuitive here, and it's even got a debugger here, which is cool. So I can set breakpoints here. Again, let's just kind of mess around with this just for a tiny bit. Then I'll go back to the documentation. We'll look at the actual language here. But, I mean, you could see how some of this could get translated into, like, C or assembly here. I've got my include. I guess wherever the home is, maybe there's some special built-in variables here. And then the paths, and then it looks like I've got a way to define like some constants. I've got some structures for entities, cameras. Interesting that I've got these macros here. So get node position. Let's see what that's doing here. Okay, it's giving me the position, and then I guess /x is that. Interesting. I wonder if that's the, you know, doing the textual substitution like in C, where you can use like a pound mark or something for this value, and then it'll be like the equivalent of .x or something, and then get the node x and so on. Okay, interesting here. Very interesting. Okay, and then we've got declare our some of these functions here that we have here, and look, I can see what looks like a pointer here. So I'm dereferencing this, so I guess that's equivalent. I don't know if they have this syntax here. I wonder if we just rebuild it. Will that work? Okay, yeah, they don't. So none of that syntactic sugar, which in some ways is kind of good because then you always know what's going on. But again, you then you know you're dereferencing a pointer. But again, it's a basic language, so you got to know what's going on here. Meaning not to hide and have many ways to do different things here. So we've got our globals that are defined here, and then it looks like we can define some tank entity here. That's kind of interesting. And then a camera. Okay, so I guess we've got these two defined at least within this file or something. And then we got a bunch of, you know, logic for actually running the game here. Mostly procedures. We've got for loops and so on. Okay, so again, that gives us a little idea here, but let's kind of take a look here from the website here. And again, this is a pretty active programming language since, as we looked at, since 1998 or 2000, wherever the official release was, for the last 25 years. So it's cool to see that this is still getting updates. And apparently you buy once and you get to keep it forever, which is really, really neat. Okay, so let's go ahead and see. Okay, we did the download. Then if you want to order the showcase, so you can see some of the different applications. The IDE, of course, built with PureBasic. That's cool. You always want to kind of do some dog feeding, as they say, making sure that you can, you know, sort of actually use the language you're building to build stuff. That's a good idea. It's kind of funny. I mean, this is kind of cool. Profilers, they are building sort of low-level stuff, or a CPU monitor here. This screenshot here, whatever this game has been here for quite some time. It still looks pretty good. Looks like it's a lot of fun. But then again, I guess you got some other projects here again, that have been built with PureBasic, which is pretty neat here. And then the support, again, the forums is what I remember, but it looks like there's different, again, languages, so you can go ahead and join wherever you want, and a couple, sites that have been built off of this, and we saw the purearea.net earlier here. And they got a YouTube channel. That's great here. Let's go ahead and peek at that. So if I go over, looks like there's a bunch of tutorials on doing, PureBasic stuff, which is cool. So always good to see here. Always good to see here. All right. All right. So anyways, let me close some of these tabs out. Let's go to the documentation here, which we found from the main page here. I think we basically got everything. There's an FAQ here, mostly about, let's see, ordering. Can you build commercial applications with PureBasic? Yep, you can do whatever you want. There's no like royalties or these types of things here. So again, it's a pretty free environment here. So as was mentioned earlier, there are 1,600 built-in commands, and you can already see, like, there's a bunch of 3D ones here. I mean, let's just pick some here. Okay, so you got to initialize the engine, and then you can just start creating things. I mean, a lot of effort must have gone into this, and they've got a full, like, entity system, which is kind of neat. Sometimes it's just neat to peruse these types of things just to see how they sort of abstract things. I guess they're abstracting on top of Ogre, maybe, is what I understand. They're doing a nice job kind of teaching some things here. But again, otherwise, there's tons of modules here. So common gateway interface here for doing web programming, fonts, FTP, files, dialog boxes. Let's see if we can do like a classic like create message or whatever. You got database stuff here. So again, it's a lot of the stuff that you'd want available, doing things for mail. I guess you could write a little program to send mail. So again, it's got a lot built in XML. Let's see if they have, I wonder if they have JSON. Yep, JSON. All right, so map, I guess, which is one of the built-in data structures here. Let's see if they have some examples. Maybe we can just run some little like examples here. Let's do one or two here. All right, let's create our first little PureBasic program here. Let's not modify anything. Okay. New map, country.s, country. Hey, look at that. Nice built-in IntelliSense here. US equals United States. Okay, now what did I do with the .s there? Is that a map of strings? Is it just figuring it out? Let's see. The same map. Okay, and you can also use add map element. Okay, so sort of being more explicit here. Okay, for each country. And we'll do just the next entry. So that's our version of range-based loops here. Debug. Country. That's quite fast IntelliSense, so that's kind of nice to see here. No semicolons in the language. Let's do this one here. Add map element. That's pretty nice, actually. Country. Tab over France. I like this minimalistic IDE here. Okay, again, usually you always see me do it in Vim, as you folks know. I got to get used to typing that out here. But we're adding to our map. Okay, let's go ahead and run this and see what what happens here. Compile and run here. Xpeedle started, it finished, and it ran. Okay, let's see here. Now, where are we able to see it here? Compile and run. Okay, we got compile with the debugger. Oh, neat. Okay. I wonder, is there like a print? Let's see here. Debug country here. Print. Oh, interesting. So this is our map here that we created. Now, what is this .s doing here? Okay, so we got to read like a little bit here. Let's see here. Maps. Okay. What are they? Let's see here. Let's see. How do we create a map here? Before you can work with maps, you have to declare them. Okay, we could use new map. Structures are also often used to store multiple data. Okay. And to specifically search for contents of the map, we'll use loops, for next, for each next, range based, and so on. Okay, fair enough. And I see what's going on here. Let me bring in my debug output here. Now this is kind of cool here. Let's rerun this again here, just with all of my windows. There they are. Okay, because I got 3 monitors, so stuff's popping up all over the place. But that's kind of cool here. I get this little debugging output here. Okay, neat. Okay. Now it didn't like. Oh, maybe it was okay with print here, but that's kind of neat. So it looks like a lot of these samples here, you know, pretty much copy and paste in, and you could do a lot with them, which is pretty cool here. So anyways, I've got my built-in data structure map here that I can create here. So that's kind of interesting, and you know, there's a way to sort of integrate this into the sequence, into like the syntax here, which is kind of nice here. So again, the insertion order, okay, it's not caps. This is an unordered map as well. Okay, and then we can look at lists. We got a little introduction to lists, and then maybe some examples of creating a new list here. And let's see here, .w here. I wonder if that is, let's see, we got to look at our basic types here. Is that creating the list with the data type? Because this is a strongly typed language here. Let's see here, types and operators here. A.b. Oh, yes, it is. Okay, so declare a variable called a from byte type here. That's kind of neat. That's kind of a concise way that we haven't seen, because usually this is part of the, you know, syntax. You'd say like new map of string country or something, but it's just figuring out the type from the declaration here. So that's a pretty compact way to do things here. Again, since I was just coming, I mean, I'm sort of so used to .s being like, this is a member function or something. That's why that was a little bit confusing here. But that's kind of neat here. Variables in PureBasic are not case sensitive, so pure and pure are the same variable. Okay, so again, you got that basic sort of carryover. But it's interesting to just see the types. I mean, from a parsing perspective, that's kind of nice. To just be able to handle that if it's a, you know, declaration. Why not? Why have to type out so much stuff? Now, if I make my own type, well, I guess I just do dot whatever. Okay, so neat. Let's explore some more of these examples. I think they'll be kind of fun here. Okay, so we have this debugger output window. Okay, or to open the memory viewer with a specific memory area to view. I mean, there's all sorts of cool stuff here. Let's do this here. There's a memory debugger. All right, let's try this out here. And then we'll read through the code, but I'm just kind of curious. Oops, I just ran. I gotta recompile and run here. Compile and run. That should give me something new. Now again, this is gonna pop up on my other window here, so now I know to look for that. Look at that. I get a memory viewer here. Okay, if whatever is in the program, and this is a relatively small program here. Display the range here. So that's kind of cool to see those tools built in here. So this opens the memory viewer window, which has these debugging tools here. Okay, so it's got a watch list, variable viewer, profilers even built in. So you can record data. This is pretty advanced for a basic language, I will say here. You can see the call stack. So seeing all this stuff built in is pretty neat here. It's kind of interesting that it's built as part of the syntax. I wonder, I mean, again, maybe I missed it as part of... Oh, I guess I've got all of these here anyways as part of the debugger, so I could just view them. But it's interesting that I actually like show them, which is something that I haven't thought about in a programming language. Meaning, you know, if I'm debugging something and I want to create like a debuggable script, or I'm suspicious that, hey, whatever function I'm in is really slow, why not find or put in syntactically a way to invoke the debugger and, you know, put a breakpoint there or something. That's kind of interesting. So we've seen a few things that have been new in PureBasic already that we haven't seen in any of the languages prior. Let's see if I can undo here. Control Z. I might not be able to. Let's see. Do I have my program running? Well, anyways, wherever I had my map, right? We saw the data type associated with like the variable name, and then this idea of like calling a debugger and showing the debugger here. So some really neat ideas here that I wasn't, definitely wasn't aware of the importance if these tools existed when I was first starting a program, but are kind of neat here. Let's keep poking around here because I think there's some other neat ideas here. Okay, and then we got this like start and stop profiler, which again would be things that you write usually yourself, log them out to a text file or whatever format you want, and then look at it. But here it's built into the language, which is really, really neat here. Okay, and that's the kind of stuff that maybe comes from experience or just kind of doing things your own way and seeing what works, and so it's kind of neat in that way. Let's see. Otherwise, we got our basic keywords for arrays. Yeah, we always did like dim, right, for creating new arrays. I wonder if that's standard for dimension, because then you'd say the type and then the expression. Okay, so this is going to be like the size here. So let's see. My array, you have like 41 values, 0 index, so kind of standard stuff. Here's a multi-dimensional array. So again, long ago, I remember doing this type of stuff here. Now I wonder, do you get... are these always dynamic? Let's see here. Because I imagine behind the scenes you're heap allocating these and then they're just like globally available. Let's see. Oh, static arrays use brackets. Okay, so that's the distinguishment here. So let's see if we have any examples of our static arrays here. Let's see. This static arrays and structures. Okay, sure. Because the structure, you got to know how big the thing is, right, at compile time. So that's kind of interesting. And then otherwise you'd use a pointer or something. Let's see how they use pointers in this language. I'm just kind of curious. I'm still curious about a few things here that we should take a look at. Pointers. Let's see if we could just like run a sample here. Here's an example here. Okay, so this is going to look pretty familiar to, pointers that we've seen before here. And I guess define, let's see, is point must be the type then. Let's see, for the declaration. Let's see if that's true. Point1 dot point 2 dot point. Okay, current point dot pointer declaration associated to structure. Okay, interesting. Okay, so I'm seeing define point dim points to slot array. Okay. This is probably talking about strings being sort of pointer points on text. Okay. I'd like to see just like a really simple like creating an integer and then just pointing to something example. But let's see, maybe that is somewhere else in like the beginner guide. Handles and numbers here. Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay, so I mean, I guess that gives me like a couple of the answers or things that we observed, right? The star is always part of the name here. I guess that's enough for the declaration then, huh? Okay, so this and this are two different variables. Okay, makes sense. Interesting. Okay, fair enough. Let's see now. Interesting. Numbers and handles. So I guess, since this language, at least when I remember it was born, was for, or I shouldn't say, because I don't know the actual motivations, but at least when I was looking at it, it was very efficient for like Windows graphical user interface programming and other sorts of, operating systems and so on, which always use handles and stuff. So it's interesting to see if there's a section here identifying this, right? This idea of, using handles here. So this manual, these numbers are marked as the pound number. Okay, numbers you assign to them do not need to be constants, but they need to be unique for each object. That's kind of interesting. That's a nice distinguishment in the documentation, right? As long as you catch it here. So image gadget, right? And this is a handle, which, behind the scenes in like GTK or whatever library, they're probably just using a number and then allocating it in some, other structure on GTK side. But this is kind of a nice cross-platform way maybe to build your API just with handles, right? Because you don't necessarily want to use like memory addresses and allocate these things. You could do that on the some other structure. So that's kind of interesting to see here. Okay. Okay, if PBNE was not used to create the object. Oh, interesting. And then you have this PBNE here. So maybe you have a unique way in PureBasic to just identify some handle. That would also be a neat idea here. So we're taking a lot of interesting and neat insights here. Again, which is the point of this series. We're not going to capture all the things here. And of course, if there's stuff that's missing that PureBasic users say absolutely check out, we should definitely post those in the comments and check those out here. You know what might be most interesting is to just run some more samples here in a moment here. But there are some advanced things here. So there are threads. So speaking of advanced, let's just copy and paste this. And again, the thing I didn't point out was since they don't use semicolons for anything, they just use semicolons for the comments here. Here we go. Let's try this again. Threaded. Let's try to copy this and paste this in. Maybe. Oops. Maybe let's close that out here. Oh, I don't need to save it. Sorry about that. Close. No. And let's create a new one. Okay, there we go. Let's compile and run this. Okay, got our debug output. Let's see. Program execution has ended, or it's breaking there. Maybe. Let's see. Display. Let's see. So I got my threaded counter. Counter equals 128. I got this procedure here called thread. That'll take it parameters here. I'll display 0 as the thread doesn't have any use for this variable. 256. And then I'll print it out. Create my thread and then wait for it here. Interesting. Okay. Neat. Okay. So I got some threading examples here. Built in again in a basic programming language, which is kind of neat here. The macros were also kind of interesting here. Again, I'm assuming it's just kind of building on top of maybe what C has, but maybe in a better, maybe a more type-safe way or something. So let's see here. So yeah, it looks like they're building. Okay, so you got your simple macros without parameters and the more complex with parameters. I wonder what's different about it here. So it is different. Again, their macros are different from the procedures. Macros are duplicating the code, sort of like cut and paste. And in C, famously, you do this with the preprocessor. So I wonder if this is more taking from other like Lispy type of things here. Let's just try again another small example here. Let's close this one out here. Nope, I'll get it right on the first try there. Let's try to run this here. Compile and run. Hello world. Okay, so again, my text strings with a $sign, I'm assuming, for the declaration. That's probably a shorthand versus .s. And then let's see here. Then I got my message box here, which is with this macro. So it's copy and pasting in this message requester here with the title and the body as parameters for the macro. And just pasting this in. Okay. Yeah, simple enough here, but kind of neat to look at some of those advanced features here. Prototype. Let's see here. Prototype allows to declare a type which will map a function. Okay, it's useful when used with a variable to do a function pointer. Oh, interesting. Okay. Did we see prototypes in, maybe it was Swift, but that might have been a different type of thing, more for like an interface here. So again, this is kind of neat here. So let's try to see an example. Compiler if. Oh, okay, neat. I like that we have these compiler if here. Again, the sample only works on Windows. Okay, fair enough. But then I get my prototype. Okay, because it's going to be like a Windows. Yeah, open the user DLL, whatever here. So interesting. So this is going to be my function pointer. Allows to declare a type which will map a function. Okay. Okay, so I guess it's just their way to do function pointers. But let's see if we can kind of see prototype I, and then it maps to this type of function, I guess. No, I guess if I do this prototype and then it just like infers this thing, which would be kind of interesting. Proto message box, so that's going to call the actual message box thing. When I assign it, I'm assuming somewhere. Oh yeah, equals get message box. Okay, so that makes sense. We're opening up the library. We're going to use this function pointer to map to, I guess, get function something else in PureBasic, which will find it. Okay, so this is how you get access to a bunch of this stuff in libraries, right? Dynamically linked libraries or shared objects on Linux or dylibs in Mac. You open up that library. Again, in Linux, you'd use like dlopen or something, or in dlsym. Retrieve the function, store the function pointer in something that you own, and then you can call that particular function prototype here, which is kind of interesting. Now, I guess message box, is holding this proto message box thing here. Okay, fair enough. And that's part of the declaration here, right, for this guy. So this message box we declared with a type that it's a function pointer type, which we declare here, and then we can call it using this name. Okay, got it. Okay, I'm getting the syntax here. It's actually quite simple. Let's see here. Shared. Okay, so I haven't seen that before. Shared allows a variable and array list map to be accessed within a procedure. When shared is used with an array list or map, only the name following by this must be specified. Okay. Debug A. So shared. I guess shared is increasing the scope. Oh yeah, this will print 20 when I debug it. Okay, so I see. So this is kind of the same as in I think in Python, sometimes you'll just mark it as like global or something and say, yeah, use the global variable instead of making this a local declaration. Okay, so those are sort of the scoping things. We saw protected earlier, which I kind of was curious about. Okay, protected allows a variable to be accessed only in a procedure. Okay, right, because there is no global variable thingy here. Yes, this is doing kind of the opposite of shared, where it's just saying, okay, yeah, use this local version, be 20, but don't change the global value here, so print 10. Okay, makes sense, makes sense. All right, so there's a ton of stuff here. Let's see if there's another. Let's run one more example here. I mean, overall, I'm quite impressed. I'm seeing, all the low-level functionality that you'd want as a systems programmer. So either direction, if you're going, if you are learning PureBasic as a first language, you would be able to keep learning, beginning stuff like just drawing some graphics to a screen and getting some basic text, console-based programs, all the way up to learning pointers and some of the fundamental data structures, and then function pointers and all these sort of advanced things. So there's no sort of cap here, which I really like. I'm impressed with the language. Again, revisiting and after 20 plus years of programming and computer experience is helpful. So it certainly makes a difference here. And again, seeing some of these examples run is pretty cool here. Let's see if we can get one. I don't know. I'm just choosing some random ones here. Let's go back to the demos. Car physics. Let's see if we have everything here. All right. This is running in a separate window, so I can just bring it in here. And this is awesome. I got a nice smooth moving camera. Oh, I might be behind my object moving forward. This is really cool. I mean, this is all you need. Front wheel drive. Oh, wow. It's quite an impressive demo here. So clearly, some folks have done some nice stuff here, whether by the lead authors or contributors, whoever have built these demos and these bindings to different things here. All right, let's see if we can drive up that ramp successfully, we will terminate this video here. Oh, there we go here. Car physics. Oh, all right. All right. Oh, we made it. We made it. We'll count that as a success. Alrighty, folks. So let me go ahead and close this out. Let me close out PureBasic here. After the first time in, 20 years can really fly by, I suppose, here. But overall, I'm really, really impressed with, the language, the ecosystem. There is I'll have to mention, I scroll down here and saw there's a new PureBasic too. So if you want to see PureBasic, which I guess is another product from the same company, it looks like it's focused again on like iOS and Android mobile web alongside PureBasic. So I guess you got a new version of this software here coming out here. So if you want to see that, if you like the PureBasic one and you want to go ahead and do this again, leave a comment below. If folks really enjoyed this and you are a PureBasic user, definitely let me know if I missed stuff in the comments, or even if you're just a former user and you built something cool or have a fond memory of it, let us know. I'm sure folks would love to, hear your stories here. But I certainly enjoyed looking back on PureBasic. It's a fun language, but I'm really impressed with how it's sort of a very pragmatic look at a basic language, but also a basic language that doesn't like cap your skills, right? You can do a lot of systems programming stuff, which means you can do basically anything. And like was advertised, build a game, an app, a CPU profiling tool, whatever you want to build there. It seems like it's possible in a fun and friendly way. So, anyways, folks, that was really fun to revisit. Thanks for your time and attention, and maybe thanks again for reminiscing with me if you're also revisiting PureBasic. And we also not only had a fun time, but we saw some cool stuff like attaching the names of types during the variable declaration. We saw prototypes. We saw the macro system, how they incorporated in threading, this idea of being able to pop up a debugger window programmatically in code. So a few different takeaways that might be interesting if you yourself are a language designer. And, some of these were new ideas I hadn't seen in other languages, or at least we didn't get to them in this series. So anyways, folks, let's go ahead and cut off the video there, and I'll look forward to your discussions, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.